Hi guys, you know what day it is. Okay guys, today we're going to do a real quick little project. And I apologize for the background, but everybody around me, the minute I come home from work, it's late in the afternoon, it's scalding hot. And I'm going to run out here and do this video for you right quick. Nice and quiet. I grab my gear, I step outside, and every lawnmower on the block came on at the same time. So I apologize for that. But anyway, what we're going to make today? Well, we're going to make a little construction project. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut 3 sticks roughly the same length. Now how long? About a foot, somewhere in there. It isn't exact, but you'll see in a minute why. Now all I did to create this was I took my WC, stuffed it in there kind of tight. Whew. I took my WC EDC and I just simply hooked that sweet spot and rotated around and snapped them off. So that's where we're at with this. Alright, what you're going to do is any little nubs or whatever, go ahead and get rid of them. It doesn't have to be peeled or clean, but it does need to be kind of uniform. And that'll become obvious here in a minute. Okay, make sure all 3 sticks got a nub sticking up. Go ahead and pop it off so that they're fairly uniform, like I said. And that'll become obvious once you see how we're going to utilize this. Alrighty, here's 2 and number 3. This is Yopon, by the way. Now, when you're going to do this project, these parts right here don't matter. The big part, and I'll get to that matter, it does matter. You want to make sure that you go ahead and peel the bark off of it and let it dry for at least an hour, 2 hours is better, before you utilize it. And you'll see why in a second. Now I'm going to take my stick, I'm going to come down here about 2 inches from the top, and I'm just simply going to put a notch in it. Nothing big, just something for a piece of cord to fit into. Line up, take the next one, do the same thing. All 3 of them at roughly the same place. It ain't got to be exact, but kind of close. I'm going to just take that sweet spot on that knife, cut in, and make a simple notch. Okay? Line up my last one, just about right there. Alright, bite in. Just like that. Okay, now that I've got all 3 of those, I'm going to take BANKLINE. I'm going to run me off of something like that, maybe 1.5 feet, close to 2 feet. Cut it off. Tie a knot in the end. Go about 1.5 inches, tie another knot. Go to the far end, tie a knot. Now, go to the first end where I got my 2 knots. Knot, knot. Go below that knot and do a simple round your finger overhand, like that. Work it down, and I'll get closer and let you see this. Okay, all we're going to do is, taking our piece of BANKLINE, we've tied a knot, skipped, tied a knot on the opposite end. Come here with the 2 knots, come back just a little bit, roll it around the tip of our finger, stick it up through that loop we just made, and leave that loop just like that. Okay, and notice that that part with the knot is in the middle. It's coming up through the middle. Okay, we're going to stick the running end up through there in just a second. So let's go ahead and we'll put that running end up through so that they're together. Okay, just like that, side by side. Alright, this is a Canadian jam knot. Take my 3 sticks, line up them notches, put the loop around that area, pull it down there so that it cinches up like that. Make sure it's in all those notches, and make sure the knot itself is not in a notch, it's between two sticks. Give it a good tug like that, kind of cinch it down good and tight. Make about 3 passes, 4 in this case, and then take that little extra piece you had lying hanging loose and simply tie them together in a simple knot. That's it. Now, what we've created here, when you spread the legs, is a little tripod. Okay? Our next component is our white rolling sweat. I took another piece of that stick that had a notch in it. It's where it was beginning a Y. I'm going to leave that notch on top. What I'm going to do is take a piece of BANKLINE, now I'm going to take it, and up here at the top, on one end I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to double it in half, so I've got about 2 inches sticking up. Make about 2 1/2. Now I'm going to wrap that around and go back to the hole. Super simple. That makes a loop. Okay? Now on the other end, I'm going to tie a knot. Why do we tie a knot? So it doesn't slide through. That acts as a stopper. So as it starts to get under load and starts working, it'll never come out because it'll go to that point and it'll stop. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come up here to my stick. We're going to go around from the back side. We're going to go around again. And this time we're going to loop it underneath both loops. Like that. Now pull that and cinch that up tight. Now we've got it set up. Don't want to use that knot? Whatever. The object of the game here is have a stake, the loop hanging up. The loop should hang up a couple inches. Okay? On the other end of that stake, we're going to put a point right quick. Nothing brain surgery, just a point. Depending on how hard your dirt is, how robust a point you need. Just like that. Now that top up there with that, either the top of the stake or whatever, crown it off. All that means is come back down about 1/4 inch, cut toward the top. That's going to cut the fibers, make it where you can pound it in the ground. It don't want to split out as easy. Okay? There. Now that part's ready. Now, our third and most important component, a Y. Now, this is a piece of Yopon I found over here that's just a Y stick, and I've left the length of it about 3 feet. Okay? 3 feet long to these. I'm not going to need all of these, but we're about to trim that up now. How long do I want these points? How big is a piece of meat? I want at least 1 inch between these. 1 1/2 inches is better, and I want them where I can kind of squeeze them together just a little bit. So I'm going to come out here, say 1 1/2 inches, about good 2 1/2 inches. Okay? And I'm going to cut it off, and I'm going to make a point out of it. I'm going to take that sweet spot of that knife, go around, snap off. Can't get any easier. Then bring her to a point. Now, it's not going to be a round point, it's going to be like a chisel point. Okay? Come to the other one over here, do the same thing. Take that sweet spot, do a 360 around with it, snap it off. You're done. Chisel point, it means that it's an irregular point, it's not perfectly round. I want to have a couple of sharp edges on it. Now I'll get you a close-up in a second so you can see that. There we go. Okay. There's the 2 points I just created. Okay, fairly sharp point, but these can still flex, and that's important. Now comes the time-consuming bit. Taking that 90-degree spine, remove all that bark. Why do we remove the bark? It carries too many bacteria and other stuff, and we're going to use this for cooking. And because of that, we do not want to add any of that to our food. And since yaupon adds a flavor to the food. Yaupon makes a tea. It's one of the few plants that has caffeine outside of coffee. Grows everywhere down here in the southeast. And we use it, and if you read your history, you know the Native Americans made a drink out of it called the black drink. They use it as a purgative in ceremony, but you could actually just make a tea out of it. It doesn't have to be so strong. I'm going to sit here and real quick take that 90-degree spine, making sure to get into the V. Get rid of all that bark off of it. All these little tendrils hanging off. Now this bark that you're about to shave off, if you let it dry, it'll make a good fire starter. And there, woo! Sweat's just running, guys. I like to do it like this. Hold my knife with the 90-degree spine, of course back, hook my finger at the edge of the blade, put it on top of my knee, and just flat pull to me, stopping short of the knee. I feed the stick into it, so I kind of put it out here to give it sight and feed the stick to it, rotating as I go. Like I was saying, all these shavings you're about to make of this green bark, once they dry, they will burn. So right now, it's just, you know, shavings. But collect them if you want and turn them into tinder for tomorrow's fire. On a hot day like this, if you lay them out in the sun at 10 o'clock in the morning, by 2 o'clock, they're ready to use as tinder. I'm just going to shave every bit of this down. Every so often, wipe your blade. Make sure that 90 degree is still good. And when you make your swipe, take about from there to there, make it about 6 inches or so at a pull. Now it'll depend on the bark or whatever it is you're stripping. But I really like this, the Nessie, I really like the WC-NK, and I really like this EDC for this type of work. It's just the perfect size for detail work. And the guys that don't like big knives, really guys, look at these. Now I'm going to go away from me because I'm going to turn the corner. I know, stimulating conversation, sitting here sharpening a stick. Trying to do this in real time for you guys to show you it's not that big a deal. Okay, now we've got all the bark peeled off of it. Now we're going to get back here on this end and we're going to bring it off to a sharp point. I'm going to bite into it one way, bite into it from another way, snap it off, and then square that off. I want a sharp point. Just like that. Alright, now I'm going to go back, take my tip, use my finger to guide it, and I'm going to wipe the sweat out of my eyes. Clean up that notch real quick. Make sure everything's good on it. It is. Now, usually, I would take this and give it, like I said, 2 hours. I want it to dry. I don't want any sap or anything like that. When I pick it up, before I put the meat on it, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to rub it down real good. I've used wood ash for that before. Rub it down with wood ash and then wipe off the excess and use that. Wood ash won't hurt you. But it will also, any sap or whatever, you'll see it. Because it'll stick to it and you'll be able to tell there's still sap. Put it in the sun, dry it out. Okay? Now, but to make this video less than an hour and a half long, I'll get the piece of meat and we'll set it up. I'll be right back. Okay, now what we have here is a hunk of steak. Now, Mrs. Blackie's going over to a friend of hers house, and this is the piece of meat she's taking over to throw on their barbecue grill tonight. Shh, don't say nothing. I saw that in the fridge and went, you know, she don't notice a hole in it. I mean, I'll put it in the marinade for her. Heck with it, you know. So, you got a light stick. Most people just think sticking on this, but the problem with that is that you can't turn it. It'll fall off. So we're going to utilize the stick. Now looking at the meat, which is the biggest end, this part up here, which is the narrow end, this part down here. I'm going to take that narrow end and I'm going to shove the stick through the narrow end. I'm going to take my knife and very carefully, so that razor sharp WC knife does not poke a hole in Blackie, I'm going to poke a hole in it. And I'm going to take my stick, I'm going to put it through that hole. There. I'm going to thread that whole stick up here. Now I'm going to get up here at the top. I'm going to take those 2 points. I'm going to go way too high. I'm going to take one of them. I'm going to push it in there, wiggle so it goes all the way in. And then I'm going to take the other one. And I'm going to squeeze it in and go back in a little ways. And I'm going to poke it in as well. Now when I stretch that out, now I got a hunk of meat I can turn upside down. See? So now when I put it over the fire to start cooking it like this, and I'm grilling one side, when I turn it over, it doesn't want to fall off. It's got 2 anchor points, and this actually wants to pull it further onto the stick. So as it cooks, it may actually want to bend in the middle. That's fine. But if you turn it this way first and get a good sear on this bottom half, it kind of stiffens it up. So when I turn it over, no big deal. And let me show it set up. Okay. There is the steak driven into the ground, and it has the loop coming up to hook to the actual skewer, we'll call it, the meat fork. Press that up, and then we got that little tripod I talked about, and then here is the actual meat actually holding it up. Now as you can see, it's one continuous piece right there, just like that. Now that allows me to flip it up, flip it around, whatever. Let me set this down a second. Sorry for all the jiggling. There. But now like this, I can come up and simply just rotate it over like that to cook it. I can lift it straight up and off the fire without having to worry about it. This tripod can be moved forward or back to increase or decrease the angle, how high I want it to be. I don't have to worry about the meat falling off the stick, and I don't have to worry about it getting too far into the coals. Now I can just grab it and lift it straight off to take it away. Super simple. So, with just a couple of sticks and a couple of pieces of BANKLINE, I can create this. This allows me to have a cooker that I can make it camp as a Dingle stick. I could thread it through this meat. If it's a long piece of meat, I could kind of serpentine the stick through the layers and then slide it up and put the hook. So I could have a piece of meat down to there if I wanted to, like an entire back strap. And I have cooked an entire back strap of a deer like this before, just by simply doing it up there. Now a big piece of meat, you put it up there and you let it cook a while until the top gets done and the bottom or whatever not quite done, and you slice off a couple of thin layers, and then you turn it over and you re-cook it. And you keep cooking and slicing until it's all gone. This is a super simple Dingle stick for the camp. Hope you enjoyed this, guys. Please leave any questions or comments. And of course, now that I'm finishing up, Mr. Lawnmower is running away. Go figure. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.